Hello survivors and welcome to another Walking Dead Road to Survival video. In this video I'm going to be going over the promises for the future update post that's been put on the forums, and it says, "Hello survivors, it's been a little while since we have provided an update on our promises for the future, so we're excited to share our progress and what to expect next." Then it goes through a content refresh in terms of what they have updated so far. All the ticks mean they have updated these things. Now, while they have updated a lot of these things, including like the 5-star wheel and so on and so forth, a lot of this came before S-Class characters were released. So it was kind of made like irrelevant the second S-Class characters were released. There definitely needs to be a wheel that gets released. It's just got ascendables on it. There needs to be an ascendable wheel with, I don't know, platinum tokens or something, because the 5-star wheel just doesn't really cut it at the moment. And if we look at the commentary afterwards, it says, "As many of you know, we updated all the above during the week of August 19th. We have been tracking your feedback and will continue to update these over time. Our goal is to ensure that relevant content continues to be available throughout the game. In the near term, look for another update to the survival depot when we launched an update to that feature in early October. See below." So I think that means the survival road depot could get updated. And obviously if there's an ascendable character in there, I think that would be a good sort of like progress step for people who are new to the game. But it doesn't do much for veterans now. That, you know, we needed that character to be an ascendable in the survival road depot probably within the first couple of months of 6 stars being released. Then it goes on to the basic gameplay updates. We'll update basic gameplay to keep older features relevant and exciting. We're looking to make the following improvements: increase to roster cap. This is something that they promised to do and they have done. New player levels. They hope to do this by early October. For whatever reason, this little square that you're seeing is actually an X, but it's not showing up on for me. More permanent collections offering relevant characters, including Gen 2 fighters and S-Class. I guess the arrow means they've been doing this a little bit, but they're still planning to do more. I think there needs to be a lot more, especially within S-Class. One character's not enough. And it says more frequent login events. Well, there is a tick here, but it isn't done. This is like a constant thing. It has to be all the time. There basically cannot not be a login event. And we had a massive gap for months where we just didn't have anything. And there's no excuse now with the new missions tab to not have very frequent login events. Stashes are okay, I guess, but there do seem to be some bugs around these. I do run 2 regions, and quite consistently one of my regions, it always has one less collection than the other region. When I've logged in for the same amount of time, I just don't get given one on one of my regions on the first day for some reason. Then it says 3 additional legacy ascendables will be released by the end of October, with more to come. The next 3 will be Life and Death Maggie mid-October, and the 2 that have already been released, which are Herschel and Romanov. Now, Herschel and Romanov were released obviously before S-Class were really prominent, and now Maggie's going to be released with S-Class everywhere. And we kind of need Maggie to be a really good 6-star character. Like, no percentage damage on that rush. Basically gear her out as if you're gearing a promo, in terms of no percentage damage on the rush, because that doesn't scale very well when it's a 6-star character, that sort of thing. There has to be bleed, burn, you know, maim, so there's guaranteed damage. You have to be able to scale this character off of defense and HP, so there's a bit more of a long-term usage for this character. If this character has more attack than defense and HP, they're basically setting her up for failure the instant she is released. If she has got percentage damage on her rush, so she's got a 500% hit on her rush, they're basically setting her up for failure on release. So we will know very quickly what sort of character they want to release, whether they want a character that's just going to be good for literally no time at all, or if they want a character that's actually going to be useful for free to play for, hopefully, you know, a couple of months. I think majority of people are still using the ascendables that were released at the beginning of the year as their defense leaders or their defense characters in Eric. So we don't get these characters updated often enough, so we do need them to be reasonably decent when they are released. It says updates to Survival Road, so I guess this is Survival Road the daily. Maybe it could be the tournament, and it could be the depot as well from what it mentioned above. It hasn't done this yet, that's an X, that little square. Updates to Faction Assault, which they hope to get out by November. Again, that's a little X to say that is going to be coming, that's next. There is a little commentary after this section as well, where it says, "Our goal with the basic gameplay updates was to see that they are meaningful. To us, this means meaningful and exciting rewards, as well as gameplay that is fresh and relevant. This also means ensuring that players have paths to earn meta-relevant characters, Since our initial post, we have brought back login rewards and released 2 ascendables. We have also introduced permanent collections for S-Class and have begun to roll out our distribution of S-Class collectibles through various features to ensure that all players are able to make progress towards earning any S-Class. We'll continue to add Gen 2 characters and future S-Class characters to permanent connections and wheels as well as events. So while I agree with some of this in terms of they are releasing the S-Class collectibles a little bit more in wider parts of the game, they are in museum collections, they have done obviously these territory events as well. These are mainly going to be aiming at top players or top spenders anyway. It's not really mega accessible except for the Pete roadmap. That's the only one that's really that accessible because it uses world energy. Other than that, you have to hit milestones, which is fine, but there are some players who are not going to be able to consistently hit those. And obviously, other than that, you're going to be able to hit, top spots in tournaments again. Not a lot of people are going to be able to hit those. And when it comes to relevant meta characters and relating that to the ascendables that have come out with Herschel and Romanov, those 2 characters were not that great. Romanov was obviously terrible. He was worse than the Red Governor that was released over a year before. And Red Governor's not used, so Romanov was instantly not used. And Herschel was just kind of average as a release. He probably was going to be useful if he was released like 6 months earlier. If he was released around the time of Eric, it would have been a really nice combo. The main potential he's got is like being on maybe some niche attack teams, but that's pretty much it. When it comes to making S-Class characters more accessible, this is something I posted a couple of weeks ago, and it basically says how I think that S-Class characters should have been unlockable. Instead of you needing the 11,000 blue keys to just straight up unlock S-Class Pete, you could have had it so that you periodically would just upgrade him with those blue keys along with the gear that you would normally use as well. So it'll be 10 blue keys to gain this character, so you could get this character really easily, then 50 to get him to tier 2 as a 5-star, so on and so forth. It would still cost 11,000 to max him out as a tier 4 S-Class character, but at least this way you're progressing. This is not all or nothing, which is generally seemingly how the game is basically still, even though they've introduced these shards, which are blue keys, ice cream cones, that sort of thing. It still is all or nothing on the character. Now, they have tried to break it down in the museum for certain characters where you need to get 2 of the 6 stars to get the S-Class character. That's still quite a long way to go on some of these characters. Priya, quite a long way to get that 6-star. Lao Po, quite a long way to get that 6-star. I think if they were to test a system out like I've used here in the future, I think it'll be really successful. It's kind of what they've done with S-Class Krista and S-Class James, except it'll be performance-based. So you could see a tournament and say, if I was to win this tournament, I could instantly get my character to 6-star. If I was to win this tournament, I could instantly get them to tier 4 as a 6-star based on where you are in the progress line of blue keys that you need to invest. This is just my thought on how they could actually potentially improve the S-Class system, because I don't think it's working as well as it could do. The commentary on the basic update section continues by saying, we are excited to announce that in early October we will be releasing a significant update to daily and limited time Survival Road. This includes a rebalancing of all levels to include new enemy fighters, new walker waves, including those from walker hordes, as well as new levels. We're also increasing survival marker earning rates, and we'll be adding and adjusting content in the survival depot. We're also going to add more player levels to make sure that the experience you earn from the new Survival Road matters. More information coming in a later update. And lastly, it says, as for Faction Assault, we are aiming to deliver an update in the middle of November. Next up, it talks about communication, and it says we will continue to evolve and improve our player communication strategy to ensure players know what's coming. And here's where an X is. We will be launching a new blog with a regular cadence of content in early October. That's their hope for it, and at least. And then there's a tick next to, we are setting up a player council to update and discuss our promises outlined and to strengthen communication lines between players and the development team. Now, there's a tick there, but we don't really know how good that is at the moment. Only people within the player council would know that, and quite a few of the people have dropped out of the player council, noting that they don't see anything really happening at the moment. So while there's a tick from Scopely's side there, it doesn't seem like there's a full tick there from the player council side. And I'd really like to know what the players council feedback is on that particular note, because that's where we need to see the tick. Because Scopely will no doubt think they're definitely doing a great job when it comes to the player council, just by setting up in the first place. And then the last one, there's another X next to this. It says you will see greater communication from our community managers in our forums and other community channels. Now, I definitely have seen improved communication on the forums. Basically, any topic that's a very big speaking point, there's generally an admin post or a community manager post within 24 to 48 hours just outlining issues around it. And sometimes it's not a very nice subject. Sometimes it's a subject that the forums do not want to really talk about, or it's going to be a negative feedback that you're going to get. But at least you're communicating that to us. And I personally do appreciate that as much as it isn't always what you want to hear. So I definitely have seen improved communication. I think it still could be better because there are some things that still happen that are sort of not talked about, and that shouldn't happen. Like changes in the game definitely should be outlined and discussed why this happened so everyone can understand the situation pretty much. Like right now, we haven't had Walker Hordes for quite a little while, and while we did have a cancellation post come up, we don't really know what the full issue is around it. While a lot of people would probably want to give their input on it, if we had a better idea, we probably wouldn't complain about it as much. And a commentary here says the player council has provided helpful feedback and helped guide some decision making. With the new blog, we hope to make it easier to access important information that keeps everyone aware of what's happening within the game. Next up, it's talking about technical stability. We are committed to making the gameplay experience as smooth as possible. We acknowledge that recently we have experienced a lot of technical bugs. We are committed to making this top priority and will aim to deliver the high quality experience our players deserve. And the commentary behind this one, it says this is an area that is an ongoing objective of our team and we owe it to you to deliver tangible action items. Now, one thing I will say is we have had some issues, and while I've had issues in other games that haven't even directly affected me, we do see compensation handed out based on issues much more often in other games. I play a handful of other games just to test the waters, just to see what it's like. Some of these are better in some areas and some of them are not in terms of like the actual game performance itself. I think I have said in the past that RTS rarely ever goes down, rarely is ever down for maintenance, whereas I see these other games down on a very regular basis. Sometimes every week down for 30 to 60 minutes, where it just doesn't happen in RTS, which is actually pretty amazing. In the 4 years I played, I can maybe say it's happened like 3 or 4 times that I can really recall. And lastly, it says about new gameplay experiences, and the initial promise is we are committed to creating and adding new features to Road to Survival which enhance the game and create new experiences for players. And the commentary next to this is we've heard positive feedback from players on arenas, and players like the added wrinkles it introduces to the core raid gameplay. This is an example of the sort of new gameplay experience that we would like to launch. We are listening to your feedback on the feature, particularly on domination mode, and we'll be updating the scoring algorithm in early October to include turns taken in order to make achieving the highest score feel less random. More details to follow. We would like to continue to create new arena rules, and we would love to hear your feedback on how to continue to improve this feature. I'd say straight out one of the most annoying features about arenas is that the scoring system, they're just not in scoring order. I have to scroll left and right and sort of work out who the top 5 teams are like every single time I attack, and obviously my defense is never correct. I have to set my defense every time and it never sets it. I think Arena has got a lot of potential, but it's just there's a lot of annoyances around it, if I'm honest. I do think it keeps using the classic raid mode too often. If I want to use classic raid mode, I can literally just raid. I think arenas should be a lot more about things that we just can't do elsewhere. So we should be seeing other modes much more regularly, not classic like every other day. You know, you could have ones where it was just fast characters for an arena, just alert characters, just tough characters. It doesn't have to be the same old classic every time. So that's the end of my video looking at the promises of the future update post, and we have got Maggie coming by mid-October. I do hope that she's going to be actually useful, and we're not going to get just another character that is a massive miss on release. We do kind of deserve one at this point. You know, Sawyer was bad, Jackson was bad, Romanov was bad, Herschel was average. Very, very niche character in terms of where you could use him. The only good ones were really, really early in the year, and one of those characters, Donnie, is not a free-to-play character in that he has very little use for free-to-play. He's massively usable by people who buy promos, but there's no characters you can use with that guy on a defense team for free-to-play. So there was only maybe 3 decent characters released this year, and that was Eric, Douglas, and Rick, and that's ridiculous considering we're in September and we've only got like 3 usable 6-star characters. We're looking at the S-Class era now. I think you can potentially give away a decent character at this point, and I really do hope Maggie's going to be that one. But that's the end of my video. Thank you very much for tuning in, guys. Do tell me what you think about the Promises update. Do you agree that they have managed to hit some of these promises? What updates, what improvements do you still want to see in certain sections? Do let me know in the comments. That is the end of my video. Thank you very much for tuning in. And as always, keep on surviving, guys. Keep on surviving.